Welcome back to What They Don't Say. And this is definitely one of those topics because we've got to stop and look at the younger generations. And when you see where this is going, it might make you rethink everything you know about these young people today, even if you are one. If you're a grandparent or a parent, there's an awful lot to consider because you're going to be surprised at what you hear here. But there's truth in it. And we've got a lot of really good kids today. They're already making an impact for the positive. They're helping our country. Frankly, I'm impressed, and I think this is probably one of the best generations of young people we've had in an awful long time. Circumstances have driven it. But like I say, you're going to hear about that. You're going to be surprised at some of this. Right now, I feel pretty darn good about the future of our country. And the reason why is the young people that I'm seeing. They are impressive. Of course, there's bad ones in every group. There was in ours, too. But there's so many of these kids today that are well-informed, smart, courteous. They realize what's going on because it's affecting them. That's something that's different about the generations now that are young. Call young, below 40, 45? They're not old, depending on which side of that you're on. But I came from the baby boomer generation. It was so much different for us because we were riding the peak of America's success after World War II. We were raised to really not worry about anything. Just get out there and grab everything you can. That's basically what we were told. We were taught a strong work ethic. But we were told to get out there and grab. And we were also told that our duty as a citizen was to vote. There was nothing about actually being involved or being active. As baby boomers, we were taught that we had saved the world. America was the greatest nation on earth. Nobody could mess with us. Everything was going to be fine. We had kicked the bad guy's ass. We're the biggest, most powerful country in the world. Now we're becoming the wealthiest country in the world. Get out there and get some. We earned this opportunity. We've got a right to it. Well, the truth is, they had done that. They forgot to tell us that we hadn't, and we were in charge of making sure that it stayed that way. We looted the golden goose. That's what we were told to do. We were told everything was fine. Nobody's going to mess with America now. It's a land of opportunity. Get out there and get some. We did what we were told. But we took our eye off the ball. And the bad guys snuck in on us. Right in front of us. Almost took it away. But thank God, this last election, a lot of this youth sided with us. They turned out in a lot bigger numbers than what young Americans normally do. And a lot of them are on the right side of things. A lot of them are active. And they helped get Trump over the finish line. We've got to be thankful for that. We need to appreciate that. My baby boomer generation didn't do that. I knew a lot of people that didn't vote until they were 30, 40. A lot of people didn't start voting until the Tea Party movement came along. They're in their late 40s and 50s then. We got a lot to be thankful for with these kids today. Now, there were a lot of baby boomers that were politically active. If you look at the 60s at the university, civil rights demonstrations, the war stuff, those kids were active. They protested. They got involved. They learned how to protest. They stayed involved in politics. They stayed involved in activism. And a lot of them became the hippies that became the old people that are screwing up our country now. And the young people don't like it. Of course, you're going to have some old, narrow-minded old people that are going to criticize the kids no matter what they do. That's been going on forever. I read one time, 40 years ago, about youth and how the old people discuss them. And I read this quote that you see here. That's from Socrates. He lived 400 years before Christ. The old people have always thought the same things about the young people. They think they're dumb, disrespectful, lazy, and God help the world because it's probably not going to make it another 100 years with these young people we got today. Socrates said that 400 years before Christ was born. Okay, so this is nothing new. I got really tired of hearing conservative radio hosts slamming the millennial generation, insulting them, blaming them for everything. I never went along with that because there's good and bad in every generation. And those millennials, they've grown to learn. As a baby boomer, we had it pretty good. We rode the peak of the best years the greatest nation on this earth ever had. There was no deficits back then. They were minor. The overspending government did in those days, 1 year of discipline could have fixed it. The politicians and the bankers worked together to keep the economy going with false jobs financed on debt. Everything was financed on debt. The home building industry for decades was financed on printed money. The nation lived beyond its means. Everybody had to live better the following year, no matter what. They kept printing money. They wanted to keep the masses happy. Look where it got us. The nation has definitely lived beyond its means, and it started with the baby boomer generation. But we were raised to be that way. When I was a kid, I spent my summers on family farms, so I was around a lot of old farmers in the summer. This is like from kindergarten up till when I graduated. I remember when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, listening to the farmers talking about the kids. This is when the riots were going on, like 1968. They were talking about the kids today, and they were saying, these kids today, they want everything handed to them. They think the world owes them a living. They're going to lose this country. They were talking about baby boomer generation, and that damn near happened. We almost lost the country. I'm not proud of it, but we weren't told anything about activism. We weren't told to participate. We were just told to vote. Vote responsibly. That's what we were told. The rest of the time, you just let government run on its own. You get fired up, you go vote every 2 years, every 4 years, boom, you've done your part. You're a great patriot. But that's what happens when a nation, a society does well. People get casual. All of the great societies that have perished, it's all because people get casual, they squander it, they loot the golden goose. That's exactly what happened with us. We didn't know any better. More people should have studied and read our Constitution, but in the later years of school, they would discuss it. You'd have a government class. You'd take a semester, maybe 2 semesters. Boom, you're done. Usually in middle school. And that's all the real conversation that you had. Parents weren't teaching it at home. They were busy with their own lives, living a middle America dream. But it was a lot more simple. It was a good life. We didn't have extra stuff, but you didn't need it. There weren't all these cheap imports. Everything was made in America until later on started seeing things were made in Japan. Kids today have no idea what that world was like because as a baby boomer parent, we were the ones to write the rules for kids on a computer, for the internet. I mean, we hadn't even guessed there was going to be an internet, and here it came. We had to make the rules for it. I knew people that were setting their kids up, grade school kids, setting them up with computers in their room on the internet. They called him the electronic babysitter. I would never do that. I freaked out at the time. It's like, man, why don't you just hand your boy a stack of Hustler magazines? All the old alphabet news stations, they don't impress these kids and they don't listen to them much. They go on the internet and they find their own sources they can trust, sources they can verify, sources that prove to be right, or they go find another source. These kids are well informed. Consider critical thinking skills. That's a subject that you hear a lot about today that I never heard discussed when I was a kid. But the internet has taught these kids they need critical thinking skills we never imagined. You're exposed to so many things. You can make so many mistakes on the internet. Critical thinking skills matter. You got to stop and think, do I want to send that? Do I want that out there? If I do this, who can track me? Who can pick up hints of where I am from something that I post? What if I do something in social media that causes people a problem and I get hurt? They've got critical thinking issues we never had to consider, and they all learn it. It's unfortunate, but that's how the world is today. And the kids understand this, the smarter ones. They have to live with a lot of problems we never faced. These kids are stepping up. And a lot of it is because of the values they were raised with. The baby boomers never learned activism and involvement from their parents. Some of them learned it later on. A lot of them learned it during the Tea Party days and then suddenly forgot it as soon as right-wing media stopped talking about it. But these kids know that they've got to do something themselves, and they're doing it. They're stepping up across the country. They get mad. They pack those school boards. They pack the city council meetings. They contact their congressmen. It's a good thing. Of course, you've always got the radical nutcases that are rounded up by the Dems and the ones that are paid by Soros. You can always spot them. They're the ones that protest wearing the little green vests or passing out the signs. Not everybody there is paid, but the ringleaders, the ones that are passing out the info, yelling through the bullhorns, they're the paid ones. They get about $60 for 3 hours work. But the right never had a countermeasure for that. We've got it now because the kids are doing it. I can't imagine how hard it is to start out as a kid today. When I was a kid and you wanted a job, you grabbed the newspaper or your little neighborhood shopper, or what do they call them, Pennywise. But you grab those and you go to the help wanted ads. You circle a couple that you like the sounds of. Circle 4 or 5 jobs, you'd run out and get one of them. That's just how it was. It was easy. There was work everywhere for everybody. If you wanted to work, you could find a job. And we didn't even really have anything like the bills they've got now. We didn't have to pay for internet. We didn't have to buy cell phones. We didn't have to pay for monthly cell phone service. We didn't have near the expenses they've got now. Car insurance, look how expensive it is. Just starting out before a kid even has a house or tries to get an apartment, look at the bills they've got, unless the parents are paying for it, and that's wrong. That's how you get the kids that are bad that people do complain about. But a kid, they've got so many different bills. Look how expensive college has become. When I came of age, I was able to rent a house, and the rent was equal to about 1 week of pay on my mediocre job. The house rent itself was about a week of pay. I was able to live a decent life, pay for school as I went. When I got done with my first 2-year degree in electronics, I only had $900 in debt because I was able to pay a lot of it as I went. No, I didn't live good, but you knew you weren't gonna. But I had my own house. I had my own car. I even had a motorcycle. I was able to afford it all. How's a person supposed to start a family now? Look at the challenges they've got. These young kids, they've got it a lot tougher starting out than we did, and that's why they're involved. Well, people say, oh, they're lazy, they're sissies. Look at the firefighters, the cops. How about the MMA guys? There's a lot of good, hard-working kids. But people complain they're not going in the construction industry. That's because the construction industry isn't as stable as it once was. A kid doesn't want to go into a job wondering when the interest rates are going to crash and the industry is going to be shut down again. You used to be able to go into factories, which we all know what's going on with that. There were all kinds of different startup jobs that aren't available today. A lot of the jobs you can get are just enough to get by on, with no promise in the future. You used to be able to get jobs that would pay you full benefits. When I started out, almost all the full-time jobs had full benefits. Not anymore. If you can get insurance, they make you pay half, if they pay anything at all. But look at the kids that are out there, the people that are out there fighting fires in the mountains. That's all over the West and the East. That's a tough person that can go out in that heavy gear in the heat of day and climb up and down a mountain fighting a fire. You don't think that's the kids? It sure as hell isn't the old geezers doing it. Look at the kids that you run into in public. There's a lot of really decent kids. They're polite, they're intelligent, you can talk to them. I engage a lot of people in my life, just wherever I am. I enjoy people, I enjoy talking to them. It's always interesting to see what kind of response you're going to get. Just casual stuff. You don't interview them like you're writing a book. You just casually say something. Most people will talk to you. A lot of these kids are sharp. A lot of them are polite. They're decent. There's a lot of decency out there. Carolyn Levitt is a good example of that. You look at her, she's, 27, 28 years old? And she's already sharp enough to be the president's press secretary? I mean, come on. But you notice what she's always got around her neck? It's a little cross. You see a lot of that in these kids. You see a lot of cross tattoos. There's a lot of good Christian kids out there. These kids were raised right. You might not like their styles. They might have some goofy hair, goofy colors, weird tattoos, and things pierced where you shouldn't be sticking things, but they're good people. Of course they're going to look different. We did. That's what kids do. They change. That's what styles do. They change. Don't hold that against any of them because there's some damn good ones out there. But you know, they're not racist. That's a thing that has caused a lot of political division over the years. Most of these kids aren't racist. They've all been raised around other races. They don't care about that anymore. That's just a political thing. Of course, there's going to be some. There always will be. from every side. But that's not really acceptable in most circles. If you want to be a racist, you got to hang out with a bunch of other racists like these blacks are doing. Allentown, Pennsylvania, they just had a city council woman that dropped a noose on her own desk. Boom. All the race baiters, they rushed to the podium, stomping their feet, giving BLM-type speeches. The kids in general today aren't in on that. Go to YouTube and watch some of these black kids that talk about politics and social situations today. They're sharp. They're not racist. There's a lot of them out there. A couple of my kids work with black people, get along fine with them. There's none of that stuff that comes out of the political world to destroy their lives. They're just all good, decent people. If you're an older person, you got grandkids, you're still raising kids, make sure they learn something about the fact that you've got to be active in government. That's the way this whole system was set up. That's what we're supposed to do. We can't leave it to the Democrats to be active. Point it out to them when people are active, like at the city council meeting, like at the school board meeting. We should have never lost our schools, but the parents sat by, complained about it, and never did a thing about it. The entire education system, college, universities, infiltrated by Democrats. They became massive indoctrination centers. Baby boomers never did anything about it except write the growing checks because tuition has shot up ridiculously high. But the baby boomers complained and kept sending their kids and then complained when the kids came home indoctrinated. That's not going to happen with the young people today because they're taking care of business now, and God bless them. I am really impressed with these young Americans. They were raised right, and now they're facing the issues of their day, and they're doing the right things. I'm really impressed. So make sure your kids and grandkids know that it's the duty of an American to be active. Voting is the least you can do. You do that every couple of years. Being active, being involved, resisting when it's time to resist, supporting when something good needs supported. Make sure, most of all, that you value the Constitution and they know you do. You don't have to teach them everything in the Constitution. Tell them what you know, but just let them know that it is important to you and important to the country. And as they get older, they'll pay attention and they'll learn it themselves as long as they feel that it's something valuable to their lives and the country that they need to know. Right now, there's a lot of them that have been raised right. And I think we should celebrate them instead of insulting generations with comments that don't even apply to them. A lot of these kids are doing something right. They've got a real mess to work the way out of. They didn't create that mess. They've got to deal with it. They're taking the steps to do it. They need our support. We should do everything we can for them, but most of all, start out by just appreciating them. I hope you like this new channel. I hope you'll take a minute, click on the button to subscribe. We need that. We're new, and that's the lifeblood of the YouTube world. You got to have your subscribers. You got to have your like clicks. If there's a topic you'd like to have covered, let us know. We'll do it. Send your comments. All of them get answered. But I do hope you remember we have a lot of great kids today. They're doing the right thing. They were raised right. The grandparents got it right. We need to celebrate that. And as always, may God continue to bless this great country of ours. Thanks for listening.